What's going on, guys? Back with another interview here in Troy, Michigan, thanks to the Troy Chamber of Commerce and Wash College here in Troy. I'm here with my good friend now because we've taken the time
Yes.
to really get to know one another. But Sonna is a private coach and a spiritual mentor, but she's just a good soul that, some people have occupations that they're good at, and I think other people tend to have occupations that are meant to be their purpose. And I think what you do and who you are really connects, and that's why I admire you, and that's why I think you're an important person to talk to, because I think your knowledge and your wisdom, right? Talk to me about being an old soul. You're an old soul too, and I think but what I love about you is that not only are you an old soul, but you have a youthful spirit about you.
I do.
Yeah, so it's just like those two are so important. So just a little bit about her. She's devoted on this guide of, guiding others in the path of emotional and mental and physical and spiritual harmony. Her customized approach tailors to individuals and needs of each and every single one of your clients. That's super important. And through various approaches and techniques, and through her journey, she's able to, help her clients confidently navigate their personal and professional challenges and helping them realizing their inner power, essentially. So that's why I brought Sonna here. Is I think she has extremely well documented X's and O's as far as behavior goes and how to solve certain behaviors, but also just having the tools that we need to live life in more of a fulfilling manner. And I appreciate you because you've impacted my life. The other day, you and I had a very deep discussion at TEDx while we showed our support towards our friend Jojo Dries. And that conversation really moved me, but also it impacted me in a positive way. So number one, thank you. And
You're
number
so
two,
welcome.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to be here talking with you further,
Yes.
for sure.
So Sonna, you tell me, you are a healer, you're a coach, you're a mentor. Have you always been that way, ever since you were a little girl?
Well, my background is training, teaching, facilitation, not when I was a little girl, but, maybe in my early 20s. I mean, my background is film. I've done TV work, commercials, a lot of photographic work because of Michigan being such a big automotive town. I did a lot of automotive work. And that led me into training, facilitation, and coaching within large companies. GM was a big client, and GMAC Mortgage was another big client. And basically what I would do is I would privately coach them, like groups of 10 to 20 people, on sales skills, presentation skills. And I learned how to coach in a positive manner. I learned how to present I had a partner that I would work with, and we had a great rhythm, and we were able to do these private classes for GM executives, GM people in sales. And I loved it. It was my most fulfilling job. I mean, one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had, honestly, because I could see the transformation. We would help them in their skills over a 2-week time frame, and we could see the transformation in each and every one of them. And that's when the light went on, and I thought, wow, I love working with people, and I love to see the transformation. And I also have a kind of the ability to see the gifts that people have, the strengths, I should say, the strengths in others that they may not see in themselves. So I've always been able to bring that out and make them aware of that. And they're like, oh, wow, I guess you're right. And I still do that today in my coaching because I don't know, I just have a feeling or a sense. So I've been doing it, on and off for a long time, but I really got into this coaching, my more spiritual coaching, in the last 5 years. So I've been coaching for 7 years, but I've been on a journey myself, a very diligent journey the last 5 years, starting with COVID. And that kind of catapulted me into really focusing on helping people that are going through, difficult times in their life, whether it be a breakup, a relationship, whether it be a life change with a job or a career. And a lot of work with people that struggle with self-esteem, with confidence, and knowing what their purpose is and really being able to tap into their power, right? So the whole premise of what I do is connection to God, source, universe, and connecting to your soul, connecting to your body and your soul. So it's mind, body, spirit, and really learning how to trust yourself, because that's a lot of the reason why many of us don't feel confident, because we don't trust ourselves. So it's starting with self-trust and connecting to yourself and doing some inner work. There's a little bit more involved, but the whole premise is to really discover the inner power that we all have and then cultivating that.
I think you did a wonderful job of explaining what is it that you do, and I think a lot of people listening to this are immediately drawn to you because what you offer, I think a lot of people in today's society needs. But what is your why? Why is it that you do the things that you do?
I think I do it, first of all, I feel like it is my mission, it is my purpose in this lifetime, no question. And I think because I've tried to do some other things and it just keeps bringing me back to what I'm doing now. And I have always really liked working with people. So, and it also, because I've lived the experiences that I actually help people with, I've actually been able to work through them on my own and with obviously help. I've worked with many spiritual teachers, a lot of educational type things, certifications, but honestly, life experience is really what it's about, in my opinion. So, and I always say this, you can have all the accreditations, but if you haven't lived the experience, it's really hard to put yourself in that person's shoes to be able to guide them, and that's what I do. So because I've lived so many different types of experiences throughout my life, so many different roles that I've played, I'm able to take that and apply that to who I work with. And even people that I just meet, like, sometimes I'll just get a sense when I'm talking to somebody and
Right.
I'll be led to say something and they'll be like, why'd you say that? Like, that's crazy. I'm like, so it's just something that gives me a lot of inner joy, because I know that I'm helping that person because I was helped when I really needed it. And we're talking many times throughout my life that I needed to get some guidance. And it was more towards my later years, not so much in my earlier years, but I want to say the last 15 years of my life, I had people that really helped me. So I, too, am so appreciative and so grateful for those people that I believe appeared on my path to help me heal in the ways that I needed to heal. And all of them had their own strengths, okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean you need one coach or one therapist or whatever. There are healers out there that have different modalities. There are different types of things that can help us work through any trauma or heartbreak or anything that we're going through. So I feel like because I experienced it and I was able to navigate through it, that I can really help people because I know the tools. I know what helped me. And a lot of it is spiritually based. A lot of it's self-mastery based. It's mindset mastery based. It's connection to God, source, universe based. And it's also very somatic, like connecting to our bodies, which I'm actually getting more into with my work now.
Without crossing any boundaries, but I believe that storytelling is a very, very effective way to impact people, but also educate people. Is there a specific story that you have in which you went through something, and you said there's many situations, but is there a situation that you don't mind sharing where you went through a situation and you're like, man, because I went through that situation, I was able to help this person. And also, you don't have to name these people
Right.
because
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
want
for
you
sure.
to tell people's business.
Right.
But is there a story like that?
Yeah, there's two significant stories, but one happened many years ago where I really learned about personalities, behaviors, and personality flaws. I don't want to get into naming things, but like narcissism and a lot of things that fall in that category. So I learned a lot about that, and that kind of led me down one journey. And then I learned pretty much everything I could. I bounced back because that one almost did me in. And I bounced back from that, and I thought, oh, wow, I got it. I won't let myself get in that situation again. And I got into a different situation. It wasn't exactly like it, but it was a situation that wasn't really healthy for who I was. Okay, so back up here. So I got into a very big life, and I believe everything is meant to be, and I have no regrets. I'm grateful for everything I've experienced, but I do feel that the last relationship that I left before the quarantine was significant in my spiritual journey, in my connection to myself, and also my work. So it's taken me to many levels above where I was before in actually being able to help people, because I had a wider, expansive view of the world and how my soul sat with certain situations. And so it was really for the best of everybody involved. I mean, I just want to say it at that. I mean, it was for all the parties involved, for the highest good of everybody. And it was something that my soul was kind of nudging at me to do. And I just had this, it was multiple things that led me to my decision, but I did have this epiphany one day that I thought, you know what? I mean, I am hesitant to even say where I was, but I was on a very big boat, let's put it that way. And I just remember saying, wow, I'm around all this beautiful stuff, beautiful music, beautiful food, all this stuff, and something's really missing. Like something just isn't right. And that's when I just realized that my life had to change. And I knew that it was going to change, like really change. And it did. And, for anybody that goes through a difficult time, that they don't think that they can, like how they're going to be able to recover from it, you can. It just takes a little time, and it does take support and guidance. I'm a huge advocate on accountability with a teacher, a coach, therapist, any modality, a support system, community, to get you through. It is, I think, so difficult to do it on your own. You need that support, that encouragement, and also the tools, and also the spiritual guidance. So I had spiritual teachers that I was working with as well, but it just taught me so much about what's really important in life, what's truly important in life. And what's really, truly important in life is that we're happy within ourselves and the people that we're surrounded with, okay? Love is the most important thing. Love, integrity, and trust, being able to be with people that truly love you for who you are, and vice versa. I envy people that have these loving relationships, because they exist, but there's a lot that don't exist. There's a lot of people out there in unhealthy relationships that continue to stay because it's what they're used to. It's comfortable. It's the uncomfortable is comfortable. But the problem is it's going to catch up to you one day. You're going to start feeling it in your body, and you're going to start feeling it in your soul. And that's when you have to think, okay, who am I living this life for? Am I living it for somebody else, or am I living it for myself? But you know what? Honestly, there was just something within me that said, I have to move on. I have to. It's for the best for everybody. And I made that decision, and it was a journey. I was in quarantine for 3 months, isolated. I studied all the Buddhist traditions, all the Tibetan traditions. I studied very deep esoteric spirituality. I did daily meditations. I did prayer for the world almost every day because of quarantine and what was going on in the world, that we just immediately blessed the world, like every day. So this was my practice for 3 months. So this was a total transformation, total transformation for me. So.
And it seems like because you went through that transformation and quarantine and everything, it seems like everything kind of happened in the sequence of events. Like it was almost like that coronavirus and the quarantine kind of happened in perfect timing for you, where you were kind of forced to isolate yourself and forced to look deeper in. And I think, and when I reflect during that time, I too was kind of I went through a breakup myself, and I was quarantined
A lot
by
of people
myself.
went through
Yeah,
breakups
right. Yeah, a
during
lot
the
of people
quarantine.
did. And I think what I loved on what I did was I didn't kind of jump from one car to another. I didn't jump from one boat to another, I should say. I spent a lot of times alone, and I didn't go to a new relationship. and I gave myself time to heal, to learn, to reflect back, and to learn, right? Like, what were the things that I did right in that relationship that I need to keep? What are the things I was doing wrong in that relationship that I need to learn? And just like take time to converse with yourself and learn how to love yourself, right? And
Right.
when you learn to love yourself, you know, that becomes an attractive point. And when you find somebody that loves themselves and knows how to, then you're able to kind of, you know, not relying on each other, but feed off of one another, right?
Right.
So I actually, you know, have a lot of respect for you for going down that path of just like looking inwardly. Was that important? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think a lot of people in society, they go through a breakup, but once they've broken up, they jump to a next relationship. You being a coach and a mentor to a lot of people, is that a healthy thing to do, or is that, what are your thoughts on that?
As far as jumping into another relationship, like I don't recommend that people do that right away. I do believe that you do need to do some self-reflection, some self-discovery, some inner work to really figure out why that relationship went the way it did. And it's not like to judge like whose fault it was,
Right.
but okay, why did it play out the way it did, and what lesson do I have to learn about myself? How was that a mirror? Because relationships are our biggest mirrors. They show us what we need to learn about ourselves on both sides, right? So, I do believe, though, and I think that this is the consensus lately, what I'm hearing with everybody else that's a relationship expert. I don't claim to be a relationship expert. I probably should be from what I've gone through, but, you know, I guess I am more than I think, but I don't market myself like I'm a relationship expert, but I do understand a lot about relationships and human behavior. And I feel like if someone is doing the work, has done some work, and they meet somebody, I do feel that love heals. I do feel that people are meant to meet one another for a reason. And in many times, it is to heal one another. And it could be different places on their journey. I mean, somebody could be healed a little bit more than the other. But when people merge and that love is between them, love is the most powerful healer of all. Because if you really think about it, all of us, what we really want at our core, and maybe some people won't admit that, but we all want love. We want to feel love, we want to be loved, and we want to love.
Right.
We want to love others, right? Because it makes us feel good.
Right.
And so when we have that love in our relationship and the person is supporting the other person in their growth and vice versa, then it's okay. Now, you know, you get into a relationship just to, you know, put a Band-Aid on the wound and for your ego. I mean, I don't recommend it. I mean, everybody has their free will. And if they did that and they found themselves right back in the same situation, then that's their journey, you know. So part of, you know, what coaches do, I mean, at least for myself, you know, we don't tell people what to do unless you say, okay, like, what would you do if you were me? Like, if they ask me that, I'm going to tell them.
Right.
But normally, I just allow people to go through their journey and just plant the seeds and talk about it to some degree, because we don't want to interfere with people's journey, but we can make them aware of certain things. So in other words, if you're going to go and, you know, go out with somebody just to fill your ego, then that's your choice. Or you can be a little bit more mature about it and think, okay, what's really the issue here? What do I need to learn about myself?
Right.
So it just really depends. But I do think that love heals, and I do think that relationships are needed. And I know there's a lot of talk about, you know, being alone and being able to be strong alone. And listen, I've done it. And yeah, I'm a big advocate, but I'm also a big advocate of having a companionship. I mean, people need people in their lives.
Yep.
I don't think that we're meant to be alone. Now, that's not to say if somebody wants to be alone and they're okay with being alone, that's okay. But most people want the companionship. So it's good to be alone to learn your journey and to learn your inner work, do your inner work. But I feel that two people together is a very strong force, regardless of gender. We're not talking about gender, anything, it doesn't matter. Whoever helps to enhance your soul. You're enhancing each other's soul together.
That's what a successful relationship should look like. And you're saying that because you've seen successful relationships, unsuccessful relationship. You're saying that the ones that enhance one another, that's kind of like been like the common theme for people who have that relationship. You believe that?
Yeah, just where they're open. They're open to the other person. They know that that person's growing and they accept, they understand each other where they're at in their journey. I do think that like being like-minded and having some things in common, I mean, this is a whole other, that's a whole other relationship discussion. But I mean, at the end of the day, your question was, do you think people should jump into a relationship right away? And I personally don't think it's the best idea. But I feel like when you start to do the work and you start to be self-committed, then you might be open to doing some dating. And because listen, we all want to go out and have fun and feel loved and wanted and whatever. But again, you can't let your ego get in the way too much. You really have to pay attention to, okay, what did I do in these patterns throughout my life that led me to where I am today?
Obviously, hopefully some of the listeners may know if they're repeated listeners, but I have a 13-month-old daughter. She's adorable. She's super cute. And, as a dad, right, you always kind of hear, oh, you better be careful when she grows up. She's going to be a heartbreaker or whatever the case may be, right? What is it like to be a girl in this world? You're, a woman in this world. What is it like as far as perspective from a woman's view that men don't really understand? Let me give you an example, okay? When I went down my personal journey of kind of self-love and developing myself, I started to feel myself kind of rise, my confidence rising, my attraction rising, where, it wasn't necessarily saying yes to a girl because she's interested in me, but it's also being able to say no to girls that, you're not interested in, and keeping yourself, not hard to get, but
Being selective.
being selective and not settling, right?
Yeah.
And I think women have to do that more than men do, because there's a lot of men today in the society where, they're DMing girls or trying to reach out to girls, but they're not getting any responses. Whereas I think a lot of girls and women today, there's usually one or two guys that kind of have feelings towards them or like them or something. I think you guys are more so in a position where people pursue you rather than the opposite, right? So it's like the relationship world is the same, but we're kind of in we're different players, in that game, or I guess, right? I don't want to call it game because it's love.
Right.
in that
Right.
relationship of love. What advice would you give to somebody like my daughter, who, hopefully, grows up being the best version of herself, but with that comes a lot of people seeking your attention and seeking to want to date you or whatever the case may be. What's an advice that you can give to somebody like that to have the right mind to not just say yes to certain things, but being able to say no to certain things?
Well, a lot of it's how she's raised and how you guys, how you and your wife raise her, and the values that you instill in her. And it's all about having self-respect, obviously self-love, being able to set boundaries for yourself, understanding what your worth is and what you have to offer, and that you have to honor yourself.
So we talked about boundary and what that looks like and the type of effect that boundaries have on people, whether that's, setting a boundary and gaining respect. But the flip side of that is when you set a boundary for yourself, I think a lot of there's going to be people who are displeased with that.
Right.
And I think when you are a people pleaser, it's harder for you to set boundaries.
Yes.
So talk to me about that part, I'm sure you've set multiple boundaries for yourself, and that has caused people to, dislike that about you, or they might speak, ill will about you. But you also have to look at, that's the people pleaser in you that's worrying about those people. Tell me about that aspect of what we go through as humans and how important it is to set boundaries and have confidence in your boundaries.
Well, an example I can give you is, and I think a lot of people could relate to this, so I'm going to use this example, but we're in a relationship and there's something that we notice isn't aligning with our needs, okay? And we don't speak up because we don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want somebody to get upset. And a lot of times we just keep repressing and repressing and repressing. And this is very common, very common. And when we repress, we actually start to create blockages in our bodies. Okay, we start to even feel illness in our bodies sometime. And it can cause disease over time if we are really keeping everything within ourselves and not speaking up. So when we set a boundary, now there's boundaries within ourselves, like boundaries of our time, boundaries we have to work out, boundaries we have to do this, but boundaries with other people, we have to first of all remember that it is for our own, for ourselves, for our protection, right? And also that we can do it in a kind, firm, loving way. A lot of people shy away from boundaries because, especially the people pleasers, because they think that the person's going to get really upset. And the person might get upset, but you can do it in a kind, loving way. And knowing that you are doing your best part, the best way that you can do it, you can't control what the other person's going to do. And honestly, like if it's somebody that's kind of manipulative or controlling, they're not going to like boundaries. I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to like it. So you have to be prepared for that, and you have to stand your ground. And I've worked with people on this many, many times, and they get through it. They get through it, and it's hard. You got to be strong. But what's the ulterior? You're going to repress more and be like this, and you're shying away from yourself, your authentic self, and not really being able to express yourself. And like I said, over time, that is a soul-crushing experience in relationships. So if people don't learn how to communicate, it's going to not go very well.
One of the earlier memories that I had when I first moved here to this country was how scary the girls' world in high school, middle school can be.
Yeah.
And I think it continues to stem when you're an adult, you know, again, when you don't have that right boundary with people. But jealousy, enviness, you see that men and women both have that, but in their own different ways. How did you deal with that growing up? Because, you know, girls can be jealous.
Growing up, how about now? How about it still exists? It's been my life. It's been my life.
Yeah.
It's been my life.
I tend to have to deal with that time and time again.
Yeah.
In different parts of my life. But I feel like, you know, I believe that, you know, God gives you challenges in life, similar challenges. If God keeps throwing you rocks and you keep trying to fight it with scissors, he's going to continue to throw rocks at you until you learn how to defeat it with paper, you know? So I just think that jealousy and enviness, you know, when you're on this journey of self-improvement and self-love, people naturally get envious of that because they're like, oh, wow, how come I don't love myself the way she loves herself? Or how come I can't make myself, you know, look as good as she does? Or whatever the case may be, right? There's so much out there. How did you deal with that?
That's a really good point. I'm really glad you're bringing this up because I've never been asked this in all of the talks I've done. You know, it's not easy. I will tell you it's not easy. And I know that men go through it too in different ways. You know, they're competitive with the money and the success and all of this, and sometimes women, you know. But, you know, I think what the hardest thing is for me is that my life is not perfect. And even though some people, you cannot judge a book by its cover. Okay, we don't know what someone has been through. We really don't. And a lot of the things that I have been through, I really have not disclosed, you know. And we don't know. So that's where compassion comes in. That's where we have to realize that when we have love and we have compassion in our hearts, that we're not going to allow, like, you know, prejudgment of anybody, that their life is perfect or how they look or what they have or what they wear, because you don't know the circumstances around it. So that's part of it. You know, people like to judge without really knowing the person. And so that's something I struggled with a lot in my life because, you know, people would think I was like not nice, or, oh, she's, you know, she's stuck up. You know, they used to say stuck up. I don't know if they use that word anymore, but I used to say that years ago, like, oh, she's stuck up. I'm like, I am like the furthest thing from stuck up, and, you know, but sometimes people just try to find something wrong with you if they can't find something. I mean, when I was in the corporate world, people literally would try to find things on me. I worked in the corporate world for 10 years, and they would try to find. So like I have a background in like work politics too, so that kind of I can interweave in my work, but they'll try to find whatever they can. It's like I find that the more comfortable you are with yourself, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect in any way because I've been through some really crazy times, right? And I've had to do a lot of the work, but I am pretty comfortable with myself overall, like I am. And so when people see that you're comfortable, it's really intimidating. But honestly, it's just like, it's who I am. And what would bother me is people would prejudge me and say, they'd make up all the stuff about me. I mean, I was bullied a lot in high school. That's a whole other story. But when people really find out who I am, they're like, wow, like you are really nice. I'm like, well, yes, I am.
Yeah.
So, so it's hard sometimes. But, jealousy is the thief of joy. And envy, I think, is a little different. I mean, we like to have something that somebody has or whatever, but jealousy, that's darkness, that's fear. That falls in the fear category. And when people are jealous, it's usually something that's missing within them, and they're mad because you have it. And to me, that's karma. That's like you just don't even want to put that energy out there in the world. You want to like wish people the best.
Yep.
That's why with all my relationships and everything, like everything that's gone on in my life, like I wish them the best. And it's when you put it at that level, you can forgive and you can breathe and you can be more open to more miracles coming in your life. Because when we carry the weight of judgment or not forgiving or being jealous or whatever, it's all weight. People don't realize it, but everything that they're doing every day, the words they're speaking, the actions that they're making, if it's not of integrity, they don't even realize it, but on an unconscious level, it is affecting them.
Yes.
And it is a big part of self-love. When you are sticking to your values and doing things from a space of love, you are going to love yourself because you're doing the right thing.
Right.
It's not that hard. It's really not that hard, but
That's why you see, right? Like I remember I was on a walk with a friend of mine at the time. I'm no longer friends with him anymore because, I had to set boundaries. But I remember him like talking to me about like, would you trade your life with anybody else? I'm like, yeah, I'll trade my life with LeBron James. And I'm like, well, if you trade your life with LeBron James, that means, your family memories, your friends, like all that's no longer. You have to trade all of that in for somebody else's life. I can't even fathom myself saying yes to that. No way, Jose,
Yes.
am I going to do that? And I think that's why you see, right? Like, you take LeBron, for example. I mean, all that guy does is play basketball. But how many people in this country hate him? So many. All he's doing is playing basketball. And a lot of the people who hate him don't even play basketball. So it's like, why do you hate somebody that you don't even know?
Right.
Why do you hate somebody that is playing a sport that you're not even playing? You're not even a part of the league. You're not even getting paid in the same. So why does it affect you? It's what you just said, right? They are envious of how comfortable he looks being out there and taking a shot that is considered, oh my God, why would you do that? But he believes in himself enough to strive for greatness, right? So for me, I'm not bringing this up to, say that I am a LeBron James fan, but I'm just giving you an example that, people will find any way to hate you if you carry yourself with comfort and self-love and confidence. And the word confidence, I think, is super important to redefine. And I want you to touch on what confidence is. In confidence in Japanese, the calligraphy is ji, which means self, shin, which means belief. So confidence is self-belief. Mm-hmm. So it has nothing to do with
that makes sense.
how beautiful you look, how you walk, how you talk.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that. Confidence is how much belief do you have in yourself.
Right.
So talk to me about confidence and how that correlates to self-love, but also, what confidence looks like in your eyes.
Confidence is being really comfortable with yourself. And again, it has to do with your values and your integrity and your belief system. And it's nothing external. Okay, honestly, like it's all within.
Right.
It's about your essence. It's about your confidence in your belief system of who you are as a soul, who you are, how you view the world with love, with compassion. That's confidence. Obviously, we feel better, if we're dressing a certain way and we're getting dressed up and decked out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We all want to feel good. It's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. But the real true confidence that is foundational and life lasting and will really seep out into all of your endeavors, your relationships, and everything that you do is within. It's having that confidence within yourself. And that's where the self-trust comes in. That's where the intuition comes in. That's where connecting to your body comes in. So they all kind of go together, that awareness. It's all of those components that allow you to feel confident about yourself. Another thing that I feel makes me confident, and this is kind of a side note, but my wisdom, what I have endured and what I've had to overcome throughout my life has given me the confidence, because it's wisdom is power and wisdom is confidence too. It's like having that wisdom within you. Like if I'm having a day where I might feel like, I don't know, maybe a little bit more insecure than another day, and I'll think, wow, I can't do that or whatever. They're doing this, or, I should be doing more of this or whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have been through far more than they've been through, and I have worked through it, and I've come out on top. I need to look at that, and I need to celebrate myself for doing the work. Wisdom is confidence. In embracing that wisdom, even though some of that wisdom wasn't all good, it doesn't matter. You overcame it. That's a lot to be like for your self-worth, your self-esteem, and confidence.
Right here, right now, if I were to ask you, what is the proudest moment in your life? What's the first thing that pops in your mind? And I know there's a lot, but what's something that pops in your mind?
Oh, I think the proudest moments would just be with my boys, being with my boys and seeing how they've become really, really fine young men and just good souls. Like they really care about people. They care about the world. They care about individuals. And they are so far from judgment. They're just, I'm just so proud, happy that they're my boys and they're finding their way. And look they're still figuring it out, and I've embraced that and I support them in any way that they can. But honestly, I think that's my, that's the most beautiful thing in my life.
I want to acknowledge you on that in the sense that I think it's super duper important. I heard this phrase, a boy and a mom. A mom is a boy's first true love, and a boy is a mom's last true love. Like I read that somewhere earlier this week. And I look at myself, I consider myself to be a mama's boy too. I love my mom.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. I have a great relationship with my mom. I know Henry has a great relationship with his mom. And I think what ends up happening when you have a great relationship with your mom is that you become respectful men, and you become men that know how to communicate with women. I think there's a lot of awkwardness between men and women at times where people can't really communicate just
Right.
because, they're the opposite sex, I don't know how to talk to them.
Right.
Or, wow, this person is super duper beautiful, I'm nervous, I can't talk to them. But if you have a relationship with your mom in a way where you're friendly and you know how, you have a relationship with a woman, then you learn how to communicate with women. You become better at. I think there's a correlation there, and I think a lot of men who are out here who are good men, they tend to have great relationships with their moms. Do you find there's truth to that?
Yeah, I do feel that that relationship is very important, and a daughter with her father as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it does play a significant factor in of who they are. Yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, your relationship with your sons, you said that you don't really ever give them a judgment or any sort of way, and they've become the men that they are today. What were some of the things that you think that you instilled in them that turned them into the fine men that they are today?
I don't know. I guess I instilled it unconsciously. And I do have to give credit to their dad as well on certain things. But, my humility is a big thing. And, conscious of other people. And I mean, that's kind of me. They got that from me probably. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a very interesting question, but I do think just respect, and my boys are very respectful, and I think that they get that a lot from me, and I think they've learned more from me in my later years, like just recently, because of all the things again that I've learned in these last 10, 15 years, really 7 years to be exact. I think they've learned from me. So that's something that I think is important to talk about for just a second here, is that and we might have talked about it with you when we were talking a little while ago, but it's when we heal ourselves and we grow personally and we evolve, we are impacting those around us. So I feel like my kids have also grown in their own ways. They've also grown, and they may not even know it. It might be unconscious. I see it. My older one does see it lately. He does see it. So it's like there's a shift.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty. And it also has to do with, people that have really done the inner work or are on the spiritual journey, or like what we like to call, are awake. Okay, we're more conscious about our lives, more conscious about living and loving and being. And when we step into that consciousness, we actually are natural healers, not only to our kids, but also in our relationships. So it's really quite fascinating. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I don't think people understand like the power of when we start to work on ourselves and transform, how we actually transform others. It's really beautiful.
It really is beautiful, and I can attest to that with my mom too. My parents, they separated about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and my mother being Japanese, she didn't have any family over here, right? So she clearly felt super alone, and I felt like I was the only person that she had. So during that time, I think our relationship kind of grew closer, because as a son, you feel your mother's pain, and it breaks you. It broke me to pieces to see her that sad. And but what really inspired me was she did exactly what you did. She went reading books and writing out calligraphy of wisdom and affirmations in Japanese, like, those legitimate, black calligraphy things that you see. And she posted them all around the house. You walk in there, you feel like this is Joyce Byers from Stranger Things, where
Yeah.
you got all these like crazy paintings all across the wall, and that's what's her reality. And some people may look at that and say, like, is she losing her mind a little bit? But I looked at it as like, wow, she's being really, really intentional, of not losing herself. And I think when you go through something like a divorce, it can either make you and mold you into a newer version of yourself, or it can completely destroy you. And seeing my mom transform, and now she lives in Japan, and she's living life more vibrantly than I've ever seen her. She speaks more vibrantly than I've ever heard her, and that inspires me to do the same. And the level of love and understanding and grace that she shows towards my dad really helped me with my anger and with my forgiveness towards that whole situation. I'm not saying that it's completely healed. My pain is still there, but like you said, when you go down that path of self-healing and that source, it really makes a difference, and it allows you to live a life that, in a funny way, it gives you a bigger purpose, because you're
Yes,
like
it does.
healing
It totally
the
does.
people that are going through what I went through. Like, that's a purpose.
Yes, and it's a process to go through that. So you have to learn to like just be gentle on yourself and know that it's a process. But if you can let go and surrender in the meantime and try to forgive, just let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and then work through all the other stuff. It's a process. Over time, you will start to it'll start to get a little bit easier, because again, when we don't forgive, we hold all that in our bodies, and it's not healthy for us at all. So, yeah, it's very important.
Let me ask you, you mentioned your mother earlier and how much of a great impact she was in your life and who she was in your life. What are, like, let's just say it's down the road, right? This is years from now, and for some reason you know it's going to be the last day on Earth. You just know for some reason, hypothetical, okay? And all of the people are there, but you're only allowed to give them three truths. And this is I was inspired by this question by Lewis House, who's somebody that I always listen to. I always found this question fascinating. There's three truths that you can write on a piece of paper to give to your sons, to give to your grandkids, and on and on. What are the three truths that your mom gave you that you would like to pass on? And if one of those you want to add of your own,
Well,
feel
what
free
comes to mind right away is listen to your intuition. That's a huge one. That is my number one biggest life lesson because it's usually right when you keep getting nudged. I think also to do what fills your soul, not necessarily what is going to bring you all kinds of money in your life or what's going to get approval from anybody else, but what really truly fills your soul. What do you love to do and fills your soul? Do it. And integrity. Those are that's just so important, I think, in life.
You know, I was going to ask you this. You probably had an idea that I was going to ask you this. What are your three gratitudes today?
Oh my gosh. I am grateful for all of the wisdom that I have learned and all of the hardship that I have worked through. I'm very grateful for that. I am grateful that I am supported by God, my angels, the universe, all of the above. I am grateful for my boys and grateful for our health. That is what, and also grateful for the people that I've, like my new tribe, right? So my relationship, I had to kind of detach from my old life spiritually and my old life physically.
Yeah.
Right, and materially too. So lots of big changes. So I had to kind of reestablish my whole life in the last 4.5 years. And so the people that have come into my life that are genuine and real and are just of love, I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful because throughout my life I have struggled with people that have deceived me or betrayed or I've been bullied. A lot, I mean, this isn't a woe is me thing, but just because I've gone through all that, I really appreciate those that are true, those that are genuine and that have no agenda. So those are my gratitude steps or points.
One, I want to acknowledge you on that. That's exactly the same testament that my mom gave me after she moved to Japan. That was the biggest takeaway through her tough challenge was the amount of people that I realized love me. That was so much more abundant than the hurt she was feeling. So, so
Right.
that's an important nugget of
Yeah.
wisdom that I think people who are going through a breakup need to understand. You know, it's you discover those around you that truly
Yes.
love you. It's a chance for you to do that. That's number one. So thank you
Love
for
heals.
yeah, love heals. So thank you for going through that. But there's one more question that I wanted to ask you. If you could give an advice to the Sonna who, this is a two-part question, who was bullied, what would you tell that Sonna? And what would you tell the Sonna who was going through that pre-quarantine where she was just about to discover, this journey and her, who, leads to the version of you that's sitting today? What would you give as far as advice to each of those versions of you?
Well, as far as the bullied time in my life, I mean, honestly, I did what I had to do. Like I wasn't really struggling that much because I had such strength from my mom. She had given me so much strength because she told me this is going to happen because it happened to her whole life. So I was kind of prepared. And so I think I would just tell somebody that, you have to be strong, hold your shoulders back, head up high, know who you are, be really confident within yourself and that self-love, and you've got your family that loves you, and any bit of anything that does not seem right, if it gets, I wasn't bullied where it was, it was more verbal bullying and spreading rumors and stuff like that. And people calling and getting my job, getting me fired from my job. That's happened a couple times.
Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like making up stuff and getting me fired from my job. But yeah, I would do that. Like I'm not an expert on what kids do if they're bullied. I just know from my experience like what I did, and I don't know the protocol. Honestly, it's not in my swim lane. But I just know that you have to know who you are and have somebody in your corner, like, your support team, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friends, community. Community is so incredibly important in any of these type crises that we go through in our life. And then what would I tell the person right before the quarantine when I made my decision? That you can get through anything, especially a relationship that you have to leave, that you've invested a significant amount of time in. If it is not aligning with who you are in your soul, you have to have the courage to choose yourself. You have to take the steps. You have to have the courage and listen to your intuition and know that once you take that step, the rest will follow. You will be guided. You will be led to the right healers, the right therapists, the right coaches, the right community, the right friends. You will be guided. And be open. That's it.
And I will support what she just said because, when you are at that point where you're about to lose somebody or something significant in your life, your brain, it's a tool that has been developing for for centuries of time. And what it has established and grown itself into is a self-defense machine. So when you are losing somebody, your mind automatically can calculate all of the people, all of the things, all of the luxuries that it's losing. And that awareness makes it hard for you to take a step away. But what the brain doesn't know how to do is calculate all the things that you're going to gain, because what you're going to gain hasn't happened yet. So I think that perspective right there is very important. When you are saying goodbye to something, sure, you may calculate the abundance of things that you're losing, but you're going to also gain a lot that you may not know is coming. And that's the beauty of life, right? It's like the unexpected comes. That's when you can find gratitude in that. And so do you feel that to be true now that you sit here today? Do you feel like you've gained so much more than you've lost?
So much more, so much more. I mean, I never looked back, but I'm an Aries. Like when I make a decision, I'm done. I am just that kind of person.
Yeah.
And I never look back, and I didn't look back. But that's not always easy for most people,
not.
right? But I think I was so sure, and I was really listening to my higher self towards the end. So yeah, I mean, people need to know that what is the cost of their happiness and their joy of staying in a situation that's unhappy. And listen, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be a marriage, any of it.
Anything.
But, to tolerate or be in a situation that is not in alignment with who you are, or where you're not feeling some joy and pleasure from the situation, why stay in it? And I know it's the fear of the discomfort of, okay, what's this mean? But it's also exciting. Like, you could get excited about your future. You could just reframe it like, wow, I wonder how my life will be now that I've left this situation, or I've done what's best for me. So that means you're going to stay in a really detrimental situation, a negative, dark situation, because you've invested time. Mm-hmm. What about the time ahead in your future and what you can experience in that life?
Yeah.
Right? But they get so conditioned to staying where they feel the discomfort because it's all they know, or it's all that they experienced when they were a child. So if they've been in families where there was abuse or, alcoholism and things like that, then a lot of times these people tend to settle in relationships for too long. Whole other podcast.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you before we get out of here, one is to acknowledge you first. You are such a uplifter. You're always supportive. Whether it's our mutual friend Jojo Dries, in her foundation, you're there. Whether it's, Louis Lee in this show, you're there.
Big fan.
Right? Like, and even today, right? Like, I started a podcast, you came and you're supporting, and that level of like uplifting others to uplift yourself philosophy, I live by that, and I think that's why you and I connected, because I think we share that similarity. Talk to me about that. Is it true that when you uplift others, you end up uplifting yourself? Is it true that you don't need to denigrate other people to uplift yourself?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, the old way of thinking is, intimidate to motivate, right? That's what the corporate world was like. But yeah, I mean, it's all about, intimidate to motivate. So I'm hoping some of those old school rules are kind of fading, with this new earth we're getting into. But I think that, it helps me when I'm helping somebody else, when I feel, and listen, it's not me. I really believe that I'm guided. It's channeled. I'm led to certain people, and I really believe that. I'm led to certain people in my life. It's happened many, many times. And when I see a transformation, or I see that somebody's like finding their way, or that they can actually do without me because they've worked with me for a while and they're good, like that is such a great feeling. Or people that are maybe on the spiritual path and they don't understand all the little innuendos, because I've been on this path for a while, working with a very diligent, doing a lot of diligent work in this. And so just to help them understand why they might be feeling the way they're feeling, why are the emotions coming up? Why are they feeling the energy? Why are they sad? Why do they feel like they want to completely change directions in their life? So when I can help somebody through that, it makes me feel really good. And especially when they call me and they say, hey, I just started this job, or I just met this girl, or, a lot of people I've coached, like they've found their partners, they've gotten job promotions. It's like, what? But I'm so happy for them. So it just makes me feel really good. So I think I'm just so grateful that I've gotten through like a really messy time in my life, that I like to uplift people. I'm very vibrant. Like, I love music and I love people.
Yep.
And so like, if you notice, even on my posts on my page, some of it's really deep and some of it's like, let's get out the rap, let's, whatever. And then I mix it up, and because that's kind of how I am, which leads me to really what I kind of consider myself is an advocate for like multi-dimensionality, meaning that we are multi-dimensional beings, okay? So we don't have to be in a box. We don't have to do just one thing. We can be a videographer, we can be a podcaster, we can be a speaker, we can be a TV anchor, we can be all kinds of things, right? I can be a coach, I can be a dancer, I can be a this, I can be a that. That makes us multi-dimensional, and that is how we're supposed to be.
I agree.
Our souls are developed to have different traits and different characteristics of things that we may have experienced many lives ago, who knows, right? So I'm all about uplifting. I'm about being real. I like to be real with people because that's kind of how I am anyway. I mean, even if you look at my page, like sometimes I'm dressed up, sometimes I have no makeup on. Like I just am who I am, right? And so I like that about myself, that I can just be. But I do like to uplift. I do like to inspire, but I also can go really deep. And it's funny because I had lunch with a friend of mine about a month ago, and she sat there, and we sat there for I don't know how many hours. She's like, oh my God, I don't know what you're doing to me. And she's like, you are so deep. She goes, how come you don't do this on your feed? And I'm like, well, because a lot of times I just get deep when I'm working with people one-on-one. And she's like, no, you need to get deeper. You need to get out there and get deeper. So I'm branching out a little more. I'm posting a little bit more deep, like truly who I am at a soul level. It's like those layers that we're taking away, because I'm evolving too. Just because I've done healing work doesn't mean that I have it all figured out.
Nope.
Okay, I still have some true self to tap into. Okay, so I'm just warning you. I'm kidding. But I believe that we don't have to have one career. We don't have to have one We can, go out to a really fancy place. We can go out to a neighborhood bar. Like, you know what I mean? Just be able to like be in the moment.
What was the word you said?
I know, I had a hard time saying it. we're multidimensional.
Multidimensional.
Yeah, but I was trying to say dimensionality.
Yeah, you can't say that 3 times fast. No way. Multidimensionality.
Let's just keep it multidimensional.
No, I completely agree with you. I talk about that a lot too. You know, I think a lot of times, especially young people, they struggle, right? Especially when they're coming out of college, because they're always pressured to find their job. I.e., what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Well, there's no such thing as one purpose. We have multiple. Today, my purpose is to speak to you. That's my purpose right now. After this, my purpose is to be an editor. After that, my purpose is to go to JoJo's event and show support and document. So there's multiple purpose that you get to exude throughout the day. When I get home, I have a purpose to be a dad. So there's so many purposes that God gives you on a day-to-day basis. And once you realize that, you feel so much abundance, you know, rather than scarcity when you try to look for that one thing. There isn't just one thing. So I appreciate you for bringing that up. The one last thing that I wanted to ask you is, you know, during my podcast interview that you just did for me, you asked me, you know, one truth, and I was able to tell a story. And then right after that, you said, "Ooh, I have a couple stories just like that." Can you share one of those stories for us?
Oh, well, kind of where
Universe aligned and you feel like God's there or your ancestors there.
Oh my God, there's just so many. I mean, many, many, many. I've had many mystical experiences, actually.
I'm all about this. Come on, I want to hear this.
Yeah.
Tell me one.
Well, but I think, a lot of times I will have dreams like that tell me things, or, you know, that warn me against a certain situation, or, you know, that happens a lot. So that's kind of cool. Our soul never sleeps, and we are being communicated with while we're sleeping. And so that's one of the things. And I remember being in a really difficult relationship a long time ago, and this person just appeared out of nowhere in the restaurant. I was having lunch with a girlfriend, and I was really distraught over this. And this is really crazy, and this is going to sound really crazy, but I believe in earth angels too, okay?
Yep.
I believe people like send us messages through people. Yep. And so I'm sitting there, and I can't even tell you how many times I had this discussion with her about this relationship. And all of a sudden, this guy walks in, and he's really tall and like kind of like eerie, right? And he sits at the booth next to us. There's nobody in the booth. He's got a glass of water. And I said to my girlfriend, I go, "Valerie, I go, do you see that guy that walked in?" She's like, "Yeah." I go, "What's up with that?" She goes, "I don't know." I'm like, so we're talking. So mind you, I was in a really critical time, really upset about this relationship. And I said, to my girlfriend, I said, "I'm going to run up and use the restroom." So I get up, and he calls me over. And I go over to the table, and he's like, "I want you to know that you need to be treated like a queen." Ooh. And I looked at him, and I said, "Do I know you?" And he's like, he goes, "I know who you are." I go, "Well, how do I know you?" And he's like, "We may have worked together." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he avoided it. And he said, "You are worthy. Remember that. And you need to be treated like a queen." And I'm like, oh my God, if that wasn't a message from the flipping universe, right? So this is the craziest thing. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly. This is the craziest thing. So I'm like, okay. I'm like freaking out because he just looked at me like so intently.
Right.
And it was almost kind of spooky. So you go to the ladies' room. I come back. He's gone. And I said to my friend, I said, "Valerie, did that guy leave?" And she goes, "I looked back and he was gone." And I'm like, that was the message. That was the message that I needed to choose myself. Now, did I choose myself? No, I did not at that time. I had to go learn the lesson again. But that was my message.
Yeah. Did you reflect on that message when you went a little longer and you had to reflect?
Oh, well, I knew that had happened, that was an intervention.
Yeah.
That was an intervention from spirit. Like, you need to wake up. You are worthy of being treated really well, like number one. And I'm like, whoa. Yep. And I will never forget that.
It's like he was a guardian angel. He was an angel that appeared. And like you said, he was very eerie, and he had a major presence that was a little bit intimidating, but he showed you love. Real quickly, Similar story. One time I was driving to my internship, right? And it was a day where there was a huge storm. It was about 2016. It was a huge storm that happened. And you remember how there was like the huge flood that happened in Michigan where all the 75 and 696 were all covered? So anyways, so I was driving in this hoopty car at the time. I was young. And I had this car issue where if I were to stay, if my car is on and I'm standing still, the car just turns off. So I got stuck in this huge traffic because there's something wrong with my muffler. I got stuck in this huge traffic and, you know, it's storming, it's stopped, and my car just dies. And I'm trying to turn it back on, I'm trying to turn it back on, it won't come back on. And I remember I walked out of the car because I was on the left lane. I had to move my car all the way to the right lane on the shoulder, but this standstill traffic, so I can't push my car to all the way that by myself and without steering it, right? So I tried pushing it and I had dress shoes on, so I was slipping. So I couldn't find any traction. Yeah. So I remember going back in my car, put my hazardous lights on, and I just felt hopeless and helpless. Like, how am I gonna get out of this situation? And then right when I start feeling hopeless and helpless, I hear this tap on my window and I look over and it's this like very masculine looking woman there. Hey, we're gonna help you out. And I remember being like,
oh my God.
We? And I turn around and there's like a group of girls, masculine women, who came out of this van. Like they were like the A-team. Like they come out of this van
my God.
and they start pushing my car. So I get out of the car and start helping them push. And they're like, no, you get back in, you steer, we push. And then another woman, masculine woman, is like standing like on the opposite traffic, stopping traffic, and be like, go, go, go. And then the other three are pushing, and then the other one's like guiding. And then they push me. I start teeling to this shoulder, and they're like, no, we're going all the way across. And I'm like, how are we gonna do this? We got traffic under control. So they moved me all the way to the right, shoulder, and I park my car, and before I even had the chance to get out and thank them, they're like, roll out, and they hop back in their van and they took off.
Spirit team.
Thank you.
It's a spirit team.
And I'm like, those were angels.
Oh yeah, no question.
They needed to be strong women.
No question.
To push my car and direct traffic in the way that they did. And out of all the people they helped, it was them. And I truly believe like angels come in different forms, different shapes, different identities. And you described your man, as kind of intimidating, but gave you love and support, right? Same with me, that those women show me love and support. Did it demasculate me a little bit? My ego was a little hurt when they told me, get back in the car, we're pushing it. But at that time, that's exactly what I needed. And
oh my gosh.
That was the crazy.
Wow, between your stories and my stories.
Right. But we're going to wrap this interview up. And I just want to say, Sonna, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know that you and I were discussing doing this for a while, and divine timing. I think today was the perfect day to do this. I just want to say thank you to Henry behind the camera for capturing this. And thank you to everybody who took the time to watch the entirety of the video. If you like this version, please go watch the version where Sonna interviews me. Again, we just have great conversations. So hopefully the nugget of wisdoms that you took away from this interview and the nugget of wisdom that you were able to take away from the other interview adds value to you. And that's exactly why we're doing this. I just want to bring on guests who are old souls and youthful spirits, and glean and hopefully glean together, and uplift one another together. And that's the purpose of this. So thank you for watching. Thank you again, Sonna.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you, and thank all of you.
Yes, and until the next episode.